I guarantee you've never seen a power rankings like this ever. Hold on to your butts. Welcome back, Twisters, and hey there, hockey fans. Nick here, and today we've got our NHL Power Rankings for the second half of the season. Now that, of course, we're through the All-Star weekend, so we're going to rank these teams from 32 to 1, but not in the traditional sense. So I've actually devised a very unique formula. Some of you guys know that I like to do this for other rankings videos, and so that's what we're going to follow here. I'll explain that in just a little bit. And see the clothing rack behind me? So what I'm going to do is when I call a team out, I'm going to pull a jersey from my collection that represents that team. I'll hang it up there, so then that way you can see the teams ranked visually 32 to 1. Now let's get into my rankings formula. So there are 5 factors for evaluating these teams and ranking them. The first is regulation win percentage. I think that's really important because as we get into the playoffs, your performance in overtime or a shootout doesn't mean a damn thing. So that is weighted as 30% of my overall rankings. 15% is your points accumulated in the last 10 games. I think that's important because there needs to be a bit of a recency bias here. This is power rankings after all. 10% is strength of schedule. That is a custom formula from hockeyreference.com. 15% is your average goal differential per game. So that's kind of like the goal differential that you would see in the standings, but prorated on an individual game basis. And then 30% is my own personal take. So I did my own power rankings and I've lined that up in here as well. So who's ready for some power rankings? Leave a thumbs up. Let's rock and roll with number 32. We begin our countdown at number 32, and to nobody's surprise, we got the Montreal Canadiens, but hey, we got this beautiful Winter Classic jersey from 2016. So yeah, of course, it's been a terrible season for them. They are just absolutely doomed for a few bad years, in my opinion. We'll see if they sell off any pieces, but yeah, this franchise has a long way to go to make itself competitive. They do have a couple of hopefuls for the near future, but even so, it's going to take a while till they can actually build a supporting cast there. In 31st, we have the Buffalo Sabres here, but we got the goat head jersey, hey now. So yeah, Buffalo, they lost Eichel, of course, to the trade to Vegas, and they have actually responded fairly better than I expected them to, and now they have Alex Tuch, so maybe they can actually perform a little bit better in the second half this season, but their goaltending is completely unknown. We don't even know who's on the roster right now. I certainly can't name anybody, but Craig Anderson, I think, is coming back. He's certainly the best story along with Alex Tuch so far this season. In 30th is a team that has disappointed me quite a bit this year. They started out actually pretty good, but recently they've really stunk it up. It's the New Jersey Devils. They are 1-9 in their past 10 games. They fell out of the playoff race just instantly after I made a video thinking that they could actually make a run there. This jersey, by the way, is an ultra fill jersey from the early 1990s, so it's one of the older jerseys in my collection. They've had a decent strength of schedule so far though, so maybe they can turn things around a little bit in the second half, kind of like they did last season, but even so, man, just in that Metropolitan Division, it's just not fair at all. In 29th is a team that I thought would be doing a lot worse, actually. They certainly started like that. It's the Arizona Coyotes, and check out this OG Peyote jersey here. They've been playing better, I'd say, since the first 15 or 20 games. They picked it up. They are just 3-7 in their past 10 games, and they've had actually one of the harder strengths of schedule, so you do have to give them credit there. They've been battling a lot better, though, even in games that they've lost, like Carl Vamilka is a reason for that. I would say it'd be interesting to see if he's on the trading block. So for Arizona, it's not looking pretty anytime soon, but hopefully they can stockpile some assets by trading somebody like Jacob Chikrin. In 28th is a team that kind of like New Jersey fell out of the playoff race just like that, and that is the Philadelphia Flyers. They've had, what, 2 10-game winless streaks so far this season. They've actually made the playoffs in a season in which they lost 10 games, and they've missed the playoffs in a season in which they've won 10 games. So this is such Jekyll and Hyde, sort of unpredictable franchise, but we already kind of have a sense as to where they're heading next. It does not look particularly good. What does look particularly good, though, is this 2012 Winter Classic jersey, without question my favorite in their jersey history. In 27th is another team that's disappointed quite a bit this season. I'm very intrigued to see what they do at the trade deadline, and that's the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, they brought in Seth Jones and Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury's been playing a lot better, actually, after those first 15 games, I would say, but even so, he's not enough to actually get this team back in contention, especially in that crazy Central there. They've actually had the second hardest strength of schedule so far, so you do have to credit them there. But yeah, these guys unfortunately are a little bit in limbo. I'm not sure what to make of this team within the next year or two. In 26th is a team that I foolishly picked to be really good in a weak division. That certainly hasn't happened whatsoever so far. They have played a little bit better recently, And that's the Seattle Kraken, the nearest team to me. And you know what? With the Kraken, it was interesting because that defense looked so good, that goaltending looked amazing on paper, and then it just was a train wreck for most of the season. However, Philip Grubauer just got the team's first shutout, and they're getting some good contributions from guys like Jordan Eberle and Jared McCann. So maybe these guys have actually formed a bit of an identity and are in their comfort zone now. I think they'll play a little bit better in the second half, but even so, man, they got behind the 8 ball pretty damn fast. In 25th, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is a team that actually has played a little bit better than I expected this season. They've been near NHL 500 for most of the season, and that's pretty amazing considering some of the talent they've lost over the last couple of years. They'll probably be one of the active sellers at the trade deadline, though. 24th is a franchise that should be turning a corner in the next year or two, and that's the Detroit Red Wings. Of course, you've got 3 players who could be Calder finalists in Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, and also Alex Nedeljkovic, who we saw a lot in the playoffs this past season. So Detroit, I think that the future is certainly looking bright for them, and they do have the unfortunate advantage of playing in a very top-heavy division. But nonetheless, I've seen these guys a couple times on the ice. They're a very competitive team. I'm pretty surprised to see these guys all the way in 23rd because I had them 28th in my own rankings. That's the Ottawa Senators, a team that I expected to take a big step forward this year and not necessarily make the playoffs, but at least challenge for them for a majority of this year. That hasn't happened whatsoever. And of course, they've lost Drake Batherson recently as well. They've played a little bit better than when they initially started the season, but again, just not exactly the progress I was hoping they were going to make so far. They've had the hardest strength of schedule. I think that is certainly a factor there. Let's get dubious, baby. This was my Stanley Cup winner prediction for the beginning of the season, and this is why I'm not an NHL executive. So the New York Islanders, of course, had to start all those games on the road. They weren't able to really get any momentum after that, after moving into their new building. So it's weird to see them this far out of the picture, I would say, especially considering they had most of the personnel from the year prior. They brought in Zdeno Chara. However, Varlamov was injured for a bit. Sorokin's been pretty goddamn amazing, I have to say, but they're not getting the same scoring that they would have at the end of this last season and into the playoffs. Guys like Beauvillier and Palmieri just aren't performing at all for this team. Number 21 is my favorite team, and that's the San Jose Sharks. I gotta say, these guys have actually impressed me a little bit more than I expected this season. They've been a lot more competitive. The locker room environment, sort of the spirit, the demeanor of the players looks a lot better than it had the past couple of seasons. Thank you, Evander Kane, for getting the out of there. And yeah, we're actually hovering around the playoff picture just a little bit. I don't expect that to happen though, because they do have some tough games coming up here. I think the Sharks would benefit from selling off a couple of players, Tomas Hertl being a big one there, especially because he is an unrestricted free agent. The Sharks need to get younger, they need to get faster out there, but I like what I've seen from the team so far with the pieces that they've had. In 20th is another team that I'm pretty disappointed in this season. I'm not disappointed in this reverse retro jersey though. The Winnipeg Jets have had a really odd season. They started pretty good, but you could see some cracks in the armor there. Then Paul Maurice resigns, and this team just hasn't been able to put it together with that veteran group. I am pretty surprised by that. Connor Hellebuyck has done pretty well, but there really hasn't been a breakout performance for a guy who can actually routinely enter the lineup and contribute. So like Nick Ehlers, for example, he was injured. So these guys just have not been anywhere near I expected them to be. I expected them to actually go to the Stanley Cup final to represent the Western Conference. Bruce, there it is. 19th, I've got the Vancouver Canucks in this beautiful skate jersey here. Yeah, it was an absolute train wreck to start the season, but Bruce Boudreau has helped right the ship here, and the Vancouver Canucks, I think since like December 7th, have the lowest goals against average in the NHL. So maybe they do get back into the playoff picture. They are still out of it just a little bit, but nonetheless, I think that generating some momentum with an experienced head coach like Boudreau could pay dividends for this franchise in the future. Nonetheless, they will certainly be entertaining some assets that they could, or some players that they could sell off in exchange for assets. In 18th is the embodiment of a roller coaster, and that is the Edmonton Oilers. This beautiful road jersey right here, selected by the Twisted Wrister community for me to add to my collection. Colby Cave, rest in peace, of course. So the Oilers got off to that amazing hot start, and then they went just on an absolute lacuna coil, a downward spiral, essentially. They got Evander Kane, Mikko Koskinen started playing better. So these guys are back on the rise, but I'm still not entirely convinced yet. I'm sure the second half of the season is an opportunity for them to kind of regain that consistency that they had the previous couple of years. In 17th is a team that I'm not entirely sure what to make of. I don't know if they're a true playoff contender or if they're going to fold at some point later on, and that's the Dallas Stars. I haven't watched them all that much, but I do know that they're kind of a one-line team. They've got sort of the distraction of John Klingberg, who wants to be traded elsewhere, so they're still going to need to find a way to fortify that blue line, I would have to say. It's great that Braden Holtby has been sort of rebounding this season, but is that really all enough to get these guys into the playoffs with such a tough division? I don't know. In 16th, I have the Anaheim Ducks. These guys have had a magnificent turnaround just from last year. These guys were supposed to be in the basement, but with Troy Terry, with the emergence, of course, of Trevor Zegras, with Isaac Lundestrom, one of the most underrated players in the NHL, I would have to say. Shattenkirk's contributing. The whole blue line, guys, you know, from Josh Manson to Cam Fowler, everybody's putting up points. Jamie Drysdale, let's not forget him. Anthony Stolarz is going God mode as a backup goaltender. So the Ducks, they're in this, man. I don't know if they're going to really hang on, but I got to give them a lot of credit for where they've been able to get themselves in such a short period of time. In 15th is a team that you might be surprised to see this low. That's the Washington Capitals. They've had a ton of injuries. Guys like TJ Oshie have been out of the lineup, Nicholas Backstrom. Alex Ovechkin is basically putting the team on his back. The goaltending hasn't been stellar per se, and you know what, with Washington, they just haven't been able to eke out enough 2-point games. So I'm not entirely sold on this team, to be honest with you. They started kind of hot, but they've just been kind of mediocre ever since, from what I see. In 14th, we have the Nashville Predators. These guys are playing great hockey. John Hines has done a surprisingly really good job there. I was certainly a doubter, to be kind. Yusei Saros is kind of putting the team on his back. Roman Josi, another Norris Trophy caliber season. The return of Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson as well. Philip Forsberg, he's playing for a contract. So that can be a big factor in terms of getting these guys over the hump and into the playoff picture. They are securely in a playoff spot, and they're really not giving me any reasons as to why they would actually back away from that. So kudos to them. In 13th, I have the Los Angeles Kings, and these guys have impressed me a little bit this season. They've been a little inconsistent, but recently they've been coming on strongly. They've had a hard strength of schedule. They've gotten points out east, and they've gotten points against some of the tougher teams in the NHL, and it's not just a one-line team. It's not just Kopitar doing all the work. You've got Byfield now contributing there. Recently, Danault and Arvidsson have been leading the way for the team. Drew Doughty is having a wonderful sort of resurrected season, as is Jonathan Quick. And when those guys get going, when their big, old, strong horses get going, this team can actually be pretty deadly at the end of the season, if not in the playoffs. In 12th, we have the Calgary Flames. These guys have surprised me this season. Jacob Markstrom definitely looks like the goaltender from a couple years ago. Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, these guys are playing for contracts, so they're helping with that top line productivity. I want to see these guys target a Claude Giroux at the trade deadline. They could use that second line productivity, even though Mikhail Backlund certainly has his defensive capabilities. But yeah, I am surprised by the way that Daryl Sutter has been able to turn this team around. In 11th, I have the Boston Bruins, this beautiful 2019 Winter Classic jersey from when they played the Hawks in South Bend. Yeah, the Bruins are just going about their business. I mean, I know they've lost guys like David Krejci and Zdeno Chara over the years, of course. The goaltending situation, Tuukka Rask not looking like himself. But these guys always find a way to get it done. Of course, you got McAvoy, the perfection line, right? However, the perfection line needs to be reunited because Pasternak has been dropped down to the second line. They needed more productivity there. I would like to see the Bruins target somebody like Tomas Hertl or maybe JT Miller to fill in for Eric Haula at the second line center. Then you get the perfection line back, and these guys can compete with the best teams in their division for sure. In 10th, we have a team that is battle-tested. They've overcome a lot of adversity to stay at the top of their division. That's the Vegas Golden Knights. These guys have had a lot of key players out of the lineup, from Stone to Pacioretty to Alec Martinez, and they've been able to find ways to win. This time it's interesting because it's not their goaltending that has won them a Jennings Trophy in the past. It's some of that depth scoring coming through. Guys like Riley Smith. Why do they want to trade Riley Smith? This guy has been the best Golden Knight since Marc-Andre Fleury. Anyway, I'm a little bit confused by that, but that said, Peter DeBoer has done a good job of managing the personnel and keeping this team at the top of the division. Once they have all their horses back and this guy named Jack Eichel, then I think that they'll be one of the favorites to come out of the West. Speaking of battle-tested, is there anybody who's been able to overcome injuries better than the Pittsburgh Penguins? Mike Sullivan is long overdue for a Jack Adams finalist nomination, absolutely. It doesn't matter who you have in the middle six, they're getting some productivity out of that. Sidney Crosby looks good, and of course he and Malkin are there and healthy. That's obviously very important to them. Tristan Jarry is playing ridiculously well. It's going to be interesting seeing him getting into the playoffs here, because last season he was not looking particularly good between the pipes there. But yeah, Letang, the old guard, they find a way to get this done, and they find themselves right in the middle of the top four in that division. In 8th place is a team that's right there with them in their division. That's the New York Rangers. Now, I knew Gerard Gallant was going to have a positive impact on this team in his first year. He has a short shelf life. He's never lasted through 3 years with one team. And the Rangers have responded incredibly well. I think that some of those acquisitions they made in the offseason, guys like Ryan Reeves and Barclay Goodrow, have been extra padding for this team. Igor Shesterkin is having a Vezina caliber year, of course. And you've got all those just great toys on the wings and even at center as well, with guys like Zibanejad and Kreider almost leading the league in goals, and Panarin, of course. So these guys have an embarrassment of riches, seemingly. And Adam Fox is injured right now. But you know what? I think that there's no reason why these guys can't keep it rolling. Let's talk about 2 teams that have been very consistent and kind of under the radar this season, especially this next one I'm going to talk about here in 7th. That's the St. Louis Blues. You look at their lineup, the contributions they've gotten, the emergence of Jordan Kyrou and Pavel Buchnevich, and Robert Thomas, maybe the most underrated player in that division, I would have to say. Ville Husso coming in, challenging Jordan Binnington. Maybe he will actually get the start in the playoffs. I don't think anybody should be taking these guys lightly, especially in the playoffs. You got guys like Tarasenko and so many players that were on this team in 2019 to make that magical run happen. And I think that they're poised to actually get some revenge in the first round and go beyond that as well. So look out. In 5th is a team that's just ahead of the Blues in the standings for that division. That's the Minnesota Wild. Do you remember how boring these guys were a few years ago? That is certainly not the case anymore. Dean Evason has done an unbelievable job with this club ever since he took the helm behind the bench there. Of course, the Kaprizov line is producing quite a bit, but you also look at like Eriksson Ek and just the variety of skills between him, Greenway, and Marcus Foligno. Now, I think that Kevin Fiala could use a better center, right? Somebody to play with him and Matthew Boldy. So I think these guys should be in on some of the big name centers out there. Giroux, Hurdle, Miller, to name a few. So Minnesota could add even more. Their goaltending isn't amazing per se, but it's been effective enough. I think these guys are nearly the most complete team in that conference, to be honest with you. I realized I said the Wild were in 5th. This is the team that's actually in 5th. The Wild are in 6th. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs going about their business. You knew that they would be good in the regular season. The real question is, can they knock off one of those 2 Florida teams in the playoffs in the first round? I don't know. They're not going to be any higher. Even if they win the division, I still would have them below the Florida teams, to be honest with you. They need more nastiness, in my opinion, and hopefully we see that sort of manifest in the postseason. Jack Campbell's been a monster in net for most of the season, I would have to say. Matthews and Marner are clicking right now. Yeah, these guys are a lock to make the playoffs. Maybe they'll finish 2nd in the division. I don't know if I see them winning the division, though. In 4th, I've got Carolina Hurricanes. Had to use the Whalers jersey for this one. Carolina's a very complete team. I think they might be the most complete team in the NHL when you look at sort of the dispersal of talent through the forward lines, the versatility that you have with how you can shuffle the personnel up and down the lineup there with guys like Vinny Trocheck and Seth Jarvis and Nino Niederreiter and Jordan Martinook. This team is very complete top to bottom, in my opinion. Second of all, the defense. Tony DeAngelo, who would have thought that this guy would be 3rd on the team in scoring, coming in every night and putting up a good game alongside Jacob Slavin, of course, a very elite defenseman in his own right. You've got underrated players, of course, like Pesce and also his partner there in Brady Shea. Yeah. And you add in Freddie Anderson, and this team is capable of making a deep run. I still think they need some of that nastiness, kind of like Toronto, because they weren't able to really get under Tampa Bay's skin last season in the playoffs. But these guys are back. They're looking just as great as ever, just like their head coach, Rod the f***ing Bod Brindamore. In 3rd, we've got the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I actually personally rank them number 1. It doesn't matter where they finish in the standings. I think they're still the favorite no matter what. They've been able to make over sort of that identity line where they used to have, Gord, Goodrow, and Blake Coleman, and now they've got Belmar, they've got Corey Perry, and 3-time consecutive Cup winner Pat Maroon. They've got Andrei Vasilevsky, just, Vezina caliber season again. They've got Nikita Kucherov healthy, hopefully, in the second half here, and they've still been able to, keep up with the big horses in that division. So I think Tampa can still put it all together. They are very complete for the most part, top to bottom. I think they could use a little bit more help on the 4th line, but even so, you have a guy like Ross Colton, scored the Cup-winning goal last season, and he's putting up a lot of good, promising numbers himself. Now our final 2 teams. So in 2nd, it's the Colorado Avalanche. I know they lead the NHL in points percentage, but look at that, 30th when it comes to strength of schedule so far. I had them 4th in my rankings, kind of like Toronto. I'm not really a big believer until I see this team make it out of the second round of the playoffs, but promisingly for them, it doesn't matter if Nathan MacKinnon is out of the lineup. This team can still go about their business as usual. They had that 18-game home winning streak, which was redonkulous, and the Arizona Coyotes actually broke that up for them. But they're starting to put it together in net, as you saw with the recent performances of Darcy Kemper. Cale Makar, certainly going to be in the Norris conversation. They have some other underrated defensemen there as well. And of course, Nazem Kadri has really picked things up too. Which means at number 1 in the power rankings, we've got the Florida Panthers. Man, these guys have been an absolute treat to watch. And it's not just because my guy Jumbo Joe is skating out there for them. It's just that they have guys who are going to put up 50 or 60 points that we don't even talk about just because of how crazy of a season guys like Barkov and Huberdeau are having. Anthony Duclair could score 30 goals. Frank Vetrano, you can pencil him in for 20 goals every year. Anton Lundell could win the Calder this season with 60 points and God, like 100 takeaways. That guy's ridiculous. You know something, Twisters? Every day when I wake up, I kneel down on my carpet and I lift my head toward the sky, hands clasped, and I say, Almighty hockey gods, can we please get a Stanley Cup final rematch from 1996? Please, please let Jumbo Joe Thornton raise the Stanley Cup alongside the talents of Sasha Barkov and Jonathan Huberdeau and Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon on the other side. This has to happen. These two teams are just so damn exciting to watch. Everybody would love to see this, I guarantee it. So anyway, Twisters, those are just my power rankings for the second half of the NHL season. What do yours look like? Let me know down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're looking for something else to entertain you, make sure you go check out my trade deadline targets video that I just recently made, in addition to my 5 Reasons Why series on why each competing team for a playoff spot could win the Stanley Cup. We've got a new video coming out every Thursday, at least that's what I'm targeting. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, show your support with a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. You can also see the video description if you want to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and purchase some Twisted Wrist merch like what I'm wearing here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Nick. I'll catch you Twisters later.